Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, August 15th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It was quite the sight in Tijuana and Baja. Cars ablaze, people in a panic as drug cartels terrorize the region, sparking a shelter-in-place order and a U.S. travel warning this weekend. Today, many residents and visitors on edge, not knowing what to expect. We sent KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis to find out.
If the cartel's goal was to terrorize the people of Tijuana, they succeeded. Images of burnt cars and buses have been published all over the world. Martin has lived in Tijuana for 20 years. He's used to the city's high murder rates, but says that Friday's violence was different. It sent a message.
Quisieron meterle miedo, no, bueno, más bien lo lograron. Le metieron miedo a la población. Me quedé en la casa y ya no salí.
Martin did not want us to use his last name. He says the whole city's afraid. He stayed home Friday night. Graciela Ramirez owns a restaurant near Avenida Revolucion. She shut down her restaurant that night after seeing a bus on fire nearby. She says she was even too afraid to reopen the restaurant Saturday morning.
No, yo tenía miedo. Yo tenía miedo porque aquí estaba solo, parecía desierto.
The whole neighborhood was deserted Saturday morning. But she says that things were back to normal by Monday. Tijuana Mayor Montserrat Caballero tried to calm the city down over the weekend. She's vowed to protect Tijuana and says 3,000 soldiers and 2,000 police officers have been deployed to keep the peace.
Nosotros vamos a proteger Tijuana, mis policías están listos, la SEDEN está lista, el Estado también, y que mantengamos la calma. El problema es serio, pero no grave. Todavía no tenemos homicidios ni lesionados.
The problem is serious, but not grave, she says. Nobody has been murdered yet. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
The fear didn't stay on the Mexican side of the border. It affected businesses in San Ysidro, an area that was just starting to regain its footing after the pandemic. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado visited the city on the U.S. side of the border and has the details.
Many of the businesses here in San Ysidro depend on employees who live across the border in Tijuana. The manager of one of the larger stores, who didn't want to give her name because she's afraid, says that when she went home to Tijuana on Friday after work, she saw a car on fire. She thought someone was having mechanical issues and didn't realize it would affect so many lives.
¿No vamos a salir o qué? ¿Qué pasó? Queríamos ir a la tienda a comprar pues para la comida y todo eso.
She says that night they couldn't even go to the grocery store because they were so scared and couldn't sleep because there were so many sirens. Saturday morning when she went to go to work, she saw a ghost town.
Estaba la línea sola. Nada de línea.
Every day, about 37,000 people who live in Tijuana cross the border to work in businesses in the U.S. That's according to the Mexican Ministry of Economy. The store manager said it was shocking to see an empty border crossing, and even worse, to get to work and see bare parking lots there too.
Solo, todas las tiendas cerradas, estaban cerradas.
She said all the stores at the strip mall where she works were closed, and the strip malls next to hers too. Her store was the only one open. She saw a group of owners gathered who told her they could not open their stores because their employees were afraid to cross the border. We went to another store nearby and found a young employee who stayed home all weekend out of fear. She didn't want us to show her on camera. She said she had safety concerns.
Y supe que iba a estar muy fuerte y que no iban a dejar que saliera nadie ni si viera.
She said she called her boss on Friday evening when she heard about threats from criminals calling for people to stay home. And every person she knows did the same.
Tenía mucho miedo. no sabía qué iba a pasar y no sabía si...
This young employee also doesn't want to give her name, but says she stayed home too, and so did her neighbors and friends. She says it affected all public transportation. She says she was scared and didn't know what would happen. But she did finally take a risk on Sunday and went to work, knowing her car might get taken and burned.
Hay poquito miedo por parte de la gente y como te digo,
She says it's definitely calmer, but there is still fear and limited transportation because many drivers are afraid their vehicles will get taken and torched too. And those who rely on it to get across the border to work or want to cross to shop are out of luck. The manager of the store says many of the shops had just gotten back on their feet and are barely hanging on after the pandemic shutdowns. And if this fear lingers, the ghost town conditions she saw over the weekend may haunt them for years, and the loneliness makes her sad.
Así se siente el ambiente, se siente hasta tristeza de verdad porque miro en las calles y todo solo.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Thousands more students across San Diego County returned to school for the fall semester this morning, and that included students in Del Mar, Rancho Santa Fe, Solana Beach, and Grossmont Union High School District. More than 17,000 students returned to the 18 Grossmont campuses. Here at Mount Miguel, high school students reported to class at 8:30 because of the new California late start law. The school district also has a new superintendent who has been an educator for 35 years. In a video statement sent to parents over the weekend, Mary Beth Castan said school safety is her top priority.
Teachers can't teach and students can't learn if they don't feel safe. I'll soon be introducing to you our new Director of School Safety, who will recommend security improvements and enhance our training for staff.
The superintendent also announced each high school will have an added campus supervisor this year to monitor any safety issues. Each campus is also getting a new therapist to offer more student mental health resources. The fall semester started a few days early for a group of students in the Poway Unified School District. They are high school juniors who are now at Palomar College in Rancho Bernardo. KPBS education reporter MG Perez explains.
There was a red carpet welcome and a ribbon cutting too. This is the official opening of the new Poway to Palomar Middle College. High school students who will learn in classrooms right next to older students attending the Rancho Bernardo campus.
I struggled with AP classes and the stress of the AP test, so I thought it would be interesting to do college credits without the AP test.
Do you want to just go at your own pace?
These 43 juniors come from high schools across the Poway Unified District. Many of them learn and think outside the box. So far outside the box, they are enrolled to spend the next 2 years here in the Poway to Palomar program.
This is their home, their academic, educational home. And so when they graduate from high school, it's like it is a seamless transition for Palomar.
It's accessible, and it just sounded like a new way to study that was maybe not easier, but just a different route to try.
Along with the benefit of a new kind of education, these students are also making a sacrifice. There is no school gym or plans for a senior prom, but there are learning opportunities in that too. Teachers have included flexibility in their lesson plans, and the administration will leave much of this experience up to the students to create as the graduating class of 2024.
We know they can get A's and B's, and maybe they haven't just for life reasons, and so we're bringing them here into a small setting where we can support them a little more.
These students will also go on to internships, which could include jobs at the nearby Amazon Distribution Center or Apple and Hewlett-Packard, just a few of the corporations nestled in the neighborhood.
I'm excited because this allows me to take those college classes, which would transfer over to college credits, which can get me a degree a whole lot quicker than other people.
Here's to the class of 2024 and their new adventure. MG Perez, KPBS News.
When you think of natural disasters in California, wildfires, earthquakes, and drought often come to mind. But KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer takes a look at a new study that says the risk has increased for a different natural disaster, a mega flood washing across parts of the Golden State.
The likelihood of a mega flood occurring in California has doubled due to climate change, according to a new study. Marty Ralph is the director of the Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography.
The chance of bigger floods is very real. They're rare, but not as rare as they were before the climate has been warming. And they're looking at now 200-year storms being something more plausible, every 50 years.
The study says it's possible parts of major cities such as Los Angeles and Sacramento would be underwater if the state endured the kind of winter flooding that took place during the state's Great Flood of 1862.
Since that time, there has been developed a major array of large flood control and water supply dams in the Sierra Nevada that have the capacity to hold back a lot of water, and they're designed partly to help offset flooding.
The existing flood control infrastructure helps, but more preventative measures are needed, according to Ralph. That's because each additional degree of global warming increases the likelihood of a mega flood.
The storms will be warmer, and larger areas of the mountains will receive rain instead of snow in these storms. And when it comes to generating runoff in real time and short term from the storms, there'll be that much more coming down the rivers quickly than would have been the case when the storms are colder.
It's estimated that a flood like the one that happened in 1862 could be a $1 trillion disaster, which would be the largest in U.S. history. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The FBI is reporting an unprecedented number of threats against the Bureau following the search of former President Donald Trump's resort. Reporter Chris Nguyen with a look at the calls for violence being made.
In 22 years in federal law enforcement with the FBI, I have never seen this level of threat.
The FBI and Department of Homeland Security issuing a bulletin over the weekend warning law enforcement and courting government personnel about a steep rise in online threats. The warning highlighting a threat to plant a dirty bomb in front of FBI headquarters and calling for civil war and armed rebellion. This following the FBI's seizure of classified documents from former President Donald Trump's Florida home 1 week ago. On Friday, the names of 2 agents who signed the search warrant surfaced online before a judge unsealed the warrant. A Florida court also removed information about the judge who signed the search warrant from its website after he became the target of violent threats.
We have extremist elements who are, again, thinking they're being called to do something. And we need to have that calming voice from both sides.
Some online rhetoric bleeding over into the real world. In Cincinnati, a man shot dead after attempting to breach the FBI field office while apparently armed with an AR-15 rifle and a nail gun Thursday. In Phoenix, a group of Trump supporters, some of them armed, gathered outside the FBI building for a peaceful protest. FBI Director Chris Wray sending a memo to employees telling them their safety and security is his primary concern.
We can all protest in peaceful manners. You can be as angry as you want, but violence is always wrong.
Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
A company that makes COVID-19 vaccines wants them used as boosters, too. Novavax already got emergency use authorization in July to be used as a 2-dose primary series for adults, and today it submitted an application to allow a 3rd dose for people 18 and older who have been vaccinated and eligible for booster doses. Novavax officials believe its vaccine offers a, quote, broad, long-lasting immune response against a range of variants, end quote. No response yet from the FDA. San Diego County is facing a shortage of behavioral health workers, and that is according to a new report by the San Diego Workforce Partnership. County Supervisor Chair Nathan Fletcher commissioned the report as a roadmap to retain, train, and attract more behavioral health workers. The report finds that 18,500 more mental health and addiction treatment professionals are needed by the year 2027. One of the biggest issues cited is compensation. 55% of current workers surveyed reported they are dissatisfied with pay.
We can't have a situation where someone who works at a drug treatment facility makes less money than someone who works at In-N-Out Burger. We need these folks to do the hard, difficult work of providing care to folks in time of crisis, and that means we got to compensate them fairly and keep them engaged.
The report also recommends establishing training centers, apprenticeship programs, scholarships, and loans, as well as loan forgiveness programs in exchange for public service. If your lifespan is the number of years you live on Earth, then what is your health span? A study of accelerated aging shows that a person's biological age may be very different from what it says on their birth certificate. KPBS science and technology reporter Thomas Fudge has the story.
5, 6, 7, 8. Jump up.
Dancing, hiking, strength training, they're things people do to remain fit and stay young. And while staying young may not be literally possible based on your chronological age, the idea is not so far-fetched when you consider a person's biological age, the state of your health. Or, as it said in a UC San Diego health study, a person's epigenetic age.
An epigenetic age refers to someone's biological age. It's only just one way to measure biological age, but it captures the health of your tissues and cells and organ systems using the methylation marks across the genome.
Methylation marks. These are molecules that attach to your DNA, causing some genes to be expressed and some to not be. In Purva Jain's research, those methylation markers were revealed through blood tests of about 1,800 women. Professor Andrea LaCroix was Jain's dissertation advisor.
But what we're trying to find is a marker that we can easily measure in the blood that tells us whether we're aging faster or slower than our chronological age.
The research found that when markers act on your DNA, they can increase the risk of disease and accelerate your biological age. That has a profound effect on how long we live and how well we live.
So what we found is that for every 5 to 8 years of epigenetic age acceleration, so that means if you were 5 to 8 years older than your chronological age, you had a 20 to 32% lower odds of living to age 90 with intact mobility and cognitive functions.
Jain says those methylation markers are kind of like traffic signals for your genes. But how do they get there? In the case of accelerated aging, it could just be bad luck. But scientists say that well-known factors like lack of exercise and poor diet do influence your health. Put another way, they can determine your health span.
Many of us think about growing older, and the thing we perhaps fear most isn't dying, but losing the ability to live the lives we want to live. At least in surveys in the past, that's what older adults have told us, that they don't care as much about living to be the oldest age they can be, but they care a lot about being able to do the things that they love doing for the longest period of time. And that's really what health span is.
If accelerated aging can be reversed or stopped altogether, that's what some of these older folks are trying to do at this exercise studio in La Mesa. This studio, part of San Diego Oasis, was filled with people taking a soul dancing class when we stopped by, one of many exercise classes they offer.
Oh my gosh, it keeps your mind young, it keeps your heart young. Just your whole body keeps you moving, and it's so important for the whole picture of health.
Pat Vorman, age 62, clearly exercises here to keep her biological age as low as possible. Eleanor Smith, who's 88 years old, is a health instructor at San Diego Oasis.
It's not just to stay young, it's to feel good and to be able to do the things you want to do.
Of course, some people have seen their health spans run out, like Andrea LaCroix's mother, who has advanced Alzheimer's disease.
And she can no longer get out of her chair, she can no longer speak, she can't say our names. And we can't tell if she knows us. If she knows that we're her daughters.
LaCroix says every person needs to decide what their health span means to them, and that question is crucial when it comes to planning the final years of our lives. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Now we're going to talk more about the heat over the course of the next couple of days inland. Meanwhile, even though we could see a little bit of a downward trend in thunderstorm coverage over the far interior the next couple of days, we'll start to see that moisture and showers and thunderstorms increase again later on this week. And that can also have an influence on those temperatures perhaps coming down just a bit. Water vapor loop, look at all that dry air in place. Monsoon still in full effect as you work your way off toward the east, soaking showers, soaking thunderstorms. And there can be a few showers and thunderstorms, again, mainly over the mountainous terrain points east the next couple of days. And also the heat. Talked about the heat the next couple of afternoons. Heat advisories up the next couple of days. We're going to see those temperatures going way up yet again. Increasing cloudiness for the overnight will drop down into the upper 60s. And as we take a look around the area into San Diego County, and notice some of the numbers here falling back to 66 Oceanside. Out east, though, Borrego Springs only dropping down to 80. Chula Vista going down to 67. Here's a look at Futurecast. We work our way throughout your Tuesday. Morning low clouds, and then those dissolve. Again, a spotty shower thunderstorm back over the interior toward the afternoon time frame. Cannot be ruled out in case that can be the case all the way into Wednesday. But again, we're mainly going to be dry again as we talk about the coast throughout San Diego. Flash flooding possibilities. Again, that's going to be over southern Nevada back into Arizona, even north into the central Sierra. Temperatures climbing up to 80. San Diego, Borrego Springs 107. There's that spotty thunderstorm around Mount Laguna. And the extended, notice how the numbers coming down a bit toward the coast, so the humidity will stay up. The same can be said over the interior, going from the mid-90s into the 80s. And over the mountainous terrain, notice how those thunderstorm chances continue. Perhaps a little uptick in the moisture later on this week. And that can also be said here into the desert. Now for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
1/3 of the food that we eat is at risk because of the climate crisis is endangering butterflies and bees. International scientists recently announced the monarch butterfly is dangerously close to extinction. Some wildlife experts say losing pollinators would affect about 30% of the food supply. Apples, melons, cranberries, broccoli, and almonds are among the foods most susceptible. Scientists say if you can help pollinators rebound by planting gardens with native wildlife and using less pesticide and chemicals around your home. Organized firefighting has been around since ancient Rome, but aspects of the profession have been slow to adapt even into modern times. Today, only a fraction of career firefighters are women. Isabel Rosales reports on the push to make the industry more inclusive and the signs that it's moving in the right direction.
This is not the uniform Olivia Lozano Fuentes would have ever imagined for herself. She'll be the first to tell you she accidentally fell into firefighting after her life violently changed almost 10 years ago when someone, texting and driving, ran her over.
So from then on, I decided I wanted to give back to my community. They inspired me to pursue EMT, first aid classes.
At 5'2", 110 pounds, Lozano Fuentes wasn't sure she could keep up. One reason some women may avoid the job.
Obviously, I might not be as tall, as strong as some of them, but I definitely, what it comes down to, and the most important part would be to do the job. Job coming in!
In a profession never intended to include them, women still face major obstacles. In the last major survey on the subject, some report shunning, discrimination, sexual harassment, and other issues like ill-fitting uniforms and gear designed for men. But in her decade of fire service in California,
I have not worked directly in contact with another female firefighter.
While the number of women firefighters is increasing, it still remains relatively low, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The number of women police officers, paramedics, and military service members all surpassing the count of women in career firefighting. They make up less than 5% of the U.S. fire service.
There you go. Good.
But there's a push across the nation to turn that around.
Perfect. Keep going.
2,500 miles away in Arlington, Virginia, Camp Heat is showing teenagers what it's like to be a real firefighter.
And then we'll practice bringing the victim down.
At 18 years old, Heather Strickland's heart is in firefighting.
And working as a team, it really is important, and this camp shows why it's important. And I'm about to cry, dog. I'm a people's person, a humanitarian at heart. I really love helping people.
Signs of progress can be seen all the way to the top. A woman appointed in 2020 to the second highest fire position in the country as Deputy U.S. Fire Administrator. The following year, another woman was appointed as the U.S. Fire Administrator.
The hard part for young females, they may not see themselves as being able to fit in.
That representation matters. And the work is nowhere near done. Black and brown women make up just a fraction of the number of their white male counterparts. These women fight not only fires, but also for a seat at the table.
I gotta keep going. I can't stop now. This is only the beginning.
I'm Isabel Rosales reporting.
And dozens of junior lifeguards made a splash in Ocean Beach, jumping off the iconic OB Pier for a good cause.
Hands over your head. 3, 2, 1, step.
It was the second round of a summer fundraiser and the only time people are actually allowed to jump off of the pier. The event is hosted by the Prevent Drowning Foundation of San Diego to raise money for swim lessons for kids across the county.
Not every child has the opportunity, they don't have the access, they don't have the means, so we want to provide that opportunity to everyone. It's a life skill that everyone should be able to learn how to swim, so we want to make that possible.
And according to the foundation, formal swimming lessons reduce the likelihood of a child drowning at almost 90%. Drowning is the #1 cause of unintentional injury deaths for children ages 1 to 4 and the second leading cause of death of kids under the age of 14. Organizers expect to raise $50,000 to $75,000 from today's jump to fund swim classes.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, women and girls fight for basic rights in Afghanistan 1 year after the Taliban takeover. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here is a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. It's been 1 year since the Caldor fire erupted, reducing an entire town in Northern California to ash and debris. On Morning Edition, how a stalled U.S. Forest Service project could have prevented the destruction. And then on Midday Edition, a new vision for the future of Mira Mesa. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.